I'm Victoria Boise. I'm the Managing Director for IMODE UK and Ireland.
I'm Dobbie. I'm the editor of Aesthetic Medicine magazine.
I'm Dr. Shirin Lakhani. I'm an aesthetic and intimate health doctor with a clinic in Greenhithe in Kent.
I'm Carla Mills and I am the owner of CJ Aesthetics based in North Wales. I'm an RGN and nurse prescriber.
I'm Vivianna. I'm the founder of Genevieve Clinic in London, Belgravia, the world's first sustainable clinic.
I'm Emma Kelliher, founder and director of EK Clinic.
So today I'm here with 5 fabulous women and we're going to have a great conversation about women's health, women's wellness and intimate treatments. So I'm really pleased that you could all join IMODE here today to learn a little bit more about the Empower, but also so that we can have these great open conversations about women's health. So I always like to talk about different stats in terms of women's health because people are starting to talk about it a lot more and we want people to start those conversations a lot more. And the one that I always kick off with is that 33% of women will suffer with urinary incontinence at some point in their life. And I will go to Shirin with this first of all because I know you'll say it's higher than that.
Yeah, I will say it's higher than that, but even with a 33% statistic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that means 2 of us at least have got some issues with incontinence or will have at some point. I think the issues with the stats is that they grossly underrepresent the problem because a lot of women don't even know what incontinence is or what it means. They think of old grannies in nursing homes sweating themselves. They don't equate it with the leakage they get when they do exercise or when they cough or they sneeze. So when you actually take into account all of those numbers, I think the incidence is much, much higher than we think. And I think by the time you get to later on in life, when you're postmenopausal, I think it's closer to 100%.
Oh, it's terrifying, really. But there are things we can do. Emma, tell me a little bit about the clients that you've got coming in here. Do you think this is something that you've got a demand for with your patients?
Absolutely. So we have a very big, large female demographic, and most of our patients are sort of 35 upwards, so childbearing age, have had children, going up right to the sort of 80s. So we've got some patients actually in their 80s and even 90s actually. We've got a couple. And I think all of those women are identifying with these problems. Some of them, they would talk about it to us direct in their actual treatments, and some of them I think are just suffering in silence.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, isn't it? People not talking about it enough. I know, Carla, we've had conversations about this in the past.
Absolutely. I definitely feel, we've spoken about this, haven't we, that when we have the opportunity to have our patients in our chair, that's our opportunity then to open up the conversation. And as you referred before, I don't think as many ladies, everybody's not talking about it as much as they should be, and the stats are probably incorrect. So we need to make it more, it needs to be discussed more in clinic whilst we've got the patients in our chair. It's something that I'm very passionate about making people feel comfortable enough to talk about it. So I think that's the main thing for us as clinicians.
I think that's what's going to change the landscape is actually people like yourselves that are passionate about this subject and do want to start talking about it and start those conversations. Vivianna, I know you're already offering the Empower treatments in your clinic. Yes. Tell me a little bit about the patients that are coming to see you.
We have, to be honest, 50% men, 50% women. What's very interesting, I would say, regarding Empower is the possibility to educate patients in this direction, because even if you speak about it with 5 women, from those 5 women, other women will find out about what they have and they don't know, about what they can do, if they can intervene, prevent or treat, but it's fantastic. So it's good to educate them, I think, before. Yeah. And at least they have choices with Empower. They don't have to be scared if it's with needles, without. You have all the possible options to choose from, which is quite...
It's getting that message out there, isn't it? Yes. In terms of journalists, I think people are starting to write about it a lot more. Do you have that demand with the magazine for, getting this message out there?
I think because I'm on trade press, so I'm writing for doctors, it's less for me. But obviously a lot of the consumer journalists, I think they're doing a really good job of making people feel more comfortable about discussing their wellness, their health, their intimate areas in a more public way. So that, because there is such a stigma around talking about things like incontinence.
Yeah. Absolutely. Shirin, we talk about incontinence, but there are lots of other intimate issues that women have. Can you tell us a little bit about what you tend to see?
How long have you got? So, I mean, the easiest way to divide them up is talk about when the problems occur during a woman's life. So, right from puberty up until postmenopause, women have issues with their bodies, their hormones, their intimate health. But where we tend to focus more as aesthetics clinics is from sort of the late 20s, early 30s, when we're looking at postpartum issues, or even before that, pregnancy-related issues, but obviously we won't treat during pregnancy. Then there's the postpartum issues. And then you go through all the perimenopause and menopause. And there are so many different issues that women get, so ranging from vaginal laxity to sexual dysfunction, vaginal dryness, problems with incontinence and other urinary symptoms as well. So where do we go? There's so much. There's not enough research on women's health at all, and that's something that needs to change. And hopefully with the increased awareness, there will be more of a move to actually identify some of the issues women go through and try and come up with solutions. And I think one of the advantages we have in our industry over the NHS is a huge investment in developing treatments and finding safe, effective solutions that work.
Yeah, definitely. These conversations is where it all begins. And I always, you would have heard from Dobbie today, I harp on at the team about feeling really comfortable about having these conversations, because if we're not comfortable from a professional perspective, then people aren't going to be comfortable talking to you about it as well. So I make everybody talk about vaginas and vulvas, so that even all the guys in our office as well, they all have to be really comfortable. Alex is really comfortable hearing those terms now. But I want to talk about sex, because we don't talk about that enough. Yeah? I thought you were going
Let's talk about you and me.
I won't sing. It's not one of my talents. You'll have to cut it.
So 75% of women suffer with sexual dysfunction during their life at some point. What are your thoughts on that, Emma?
I was actually really interested in one of the statistics that you shared today about some of the women that they've got to a point where they sort of don't care. Yeah. And I found that really sad, because I feel like they've maybe made a mental decision that they don't want to care anymore. Yeah. And perhaps that's because of the problems that they've had and they've had no solution. And I just found that statistic really sad, because there are women out there seeking help. But then what about the women that have got to the point where they just have mentally switched off to that part of their life?
Yeah, I think as well, when you've been married a long time or in a long-term relationship, and sometimes the magic can go, if you're not enjoying it when it is happening, then you're less likely to kind of keep that spark alive. And I think we're kind of programmed in society to think it's more about the man's pleasure, but actually we should be enjoying sex as well.
Yeah, there's definitely lots of women out there that I think have kind of got to a point where they've just given up.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot are putting it with it as well. Yeah. They're having intercourse and it's uncomfortable for them, as you said. Yeah. And they're maybe not speaking up about it, and they're just dealing with it. Yeah. And from the male side, obviously there's different issues for males as well, but you know, these women are suffering in silence and they don't realise that there's options for them, such as the Empower machine. And that's, like you said, it's very, very sad. Ladies come in all the time, and I think if they feel comfortable enough to be able to disclose to you that they're suffering, that's lovely, but it's getting them comfortable enough to be able to have that conversation, and that takes a lot. You know, people have got to feel like they want to open up and say, I'm actually feeling this way, which is why it needs more research and it needs more investment, doesn't it?
I think part of the problem is throughout history, women's pain's been diminished, their suffering's been diminished, and I've got patients who have debilitating genital conditions that find intercourse painful, and the solution is anaesthetic cream. What's that going to do for the woman?
Yeah,
it's actually to permit penetration for the man. It does nothing for the woman or her symptoms, and that mindset really needs to change.
Yeah.
But I also think, though, if you're a teenager or a young adult and the first time you have intercourse it's not pleasant, you just think this is what it is. You wouldn't realise, you know, why everyone else is enjoying it. This is the only experience you have. It's not. If people don't talk about it, they don't realise that's not normal and that they should be seeking help. They just think, oh, this isn't for me, and might not be into it.
Yeah, not had an orgasm, that's just the way I'm wired, it's never going to happen for
I
me.
think that's quite common when you talk to people. That's their experience.
Particularly
growing
women,
up.
because women don't need to orgasm to reproduce, whereas men do. So it's been much more of an issue in terms of male sexual dysfunction to find solutions to it. But with women, well, you can just lie back and have sex anyway, so what the hell?
Think of England.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't an old person problem. It's not just a menopausal problem. This is a young person problem as well. You hear these rumours about how a woman's sex life is supposed to be amazing when they hit like 40. Is this a true thing? Where is the science behind that? Because we're talking about women's intimate issues and dryness and atrophy and all of these things. So where has that rumour come from, and is there any truth in it?
Maybe in the mind.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think from a psychological point of view, you're much more open to things in your 40s than you were in your 20s, possibly. You're probably not as worried about getting pregnant, even though at that time there's still a risk, but you're probably looking
Terrified.
at longer term contraception. And a lot of people, they don't stay in the same relationship for the whole of their lives, do they? Because we're living longer, people will change partners. And I think there's something empowering about aging for a woman in terms of mindset and confidence. And that's probably where it comes from.
Is it an experience thing? Do you think we go through your 20s and your 30s and then maybe you get married and then you kind of hit your 40s and it's like, I know what I'm doing now, I know what I like, you're more confident in your decisions. Do you think that's where it comes from?
Personally, I'm more happy to, I'm more confident in myself, I think, than I was in my 20s. Whereas I think when I was in my 20s, I was like, oh, I have to make sure they have a nice time, haha, kind of, and didn't think about myself as much. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I don't really care. I'm just going to do what, like, I'm not as, embarrassed about looking gross or, I'm just having fun, man. Also, dating someone 11 years younger than you does help. A wrestler.
I was going to say, alongside the rumour you mentioned, I always heard that a 40-year-old woman should date a 20-year-old man because they
Sounds
kind of
great,
match in terms of sexual expectations.
And sexual energy?
Yep, that too.
I wonder if it goes one or two ways though, because you have ladies that come into clinic that have gone very self-conscious, their bodies have changed, again with menopausal symptoms and changes, then they go in on themselves a little bit and they lose a bit of confidence. But equally you can have somebody that's doing very well in their career, they're able to look after themselves the way they want to, they gain confidence, and then again gain confidence in the bedroom and with any partners they're with. So I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Age can come with confidence, but also come with the negatives as well, potentially. Hopefully, majority is confidence, because that's how it should be, isn't it? But I just wonder whether or not, because I do come across ladies that go, oh, I don't like this about myself, I don't like that, which is awful. But then some ladies are exactly as you mentioned, just go, I don't care. You either take it or you don't, and that's it.
It's a great empowering mindset to be in, isn't it? To just say, this is me, that's it. And these treatments that people are coming in for, they're doing them for themselves. It's to make themselves feel better, them feel more confident. It's not about anybody else or pleasing anybody else. We talked about designer vaginas before, and I think it's not necessarily how it looks, it's about how it feels, I think, is the important thing, and how much better it can make you feel.
This is incredible. Once you say, I want to feel good in every single situation you are in, whether we are talking about sex or about any conditions you are in, when you say, I want to feel good.
Yeah, definitely. It's an empowering message. I think, as we do get older, I'll jump around a little bit. I just wanted to ask that question from a personal perspective. But as we do get older and we age, we obviously age downstairs as well. So we call this atrophy. Can you tell me a little bit about what atrophy is?
Atrophy, say for instance, with regards to women's wellness, atrophy could be a change in their vulva. As we were speaking before, somebody might find that they become a bit lax in that area. It also could mean that they're experiencing urinary incontinence. There's so many different changes that women are going through, and fortunately we have this lovely machine that can treat lots of it. But again, it leads back to that conversation that women need to open up to be able to say, actually things have changed down below, and I don't know if there's something I can do about it. You know, I might be experiencing chafing, I might think that it doesn't look the way that it used to, and that all comes with age-related changes, doesn't it? So it's about giving people options to empower them to be able to do something. And again, it's got to lead back to them wanting to do something to make themselves feel better, not for anybody else. So it is a natural part of ageing. We have atrophy of the face as well as obviously in the genital areas. So, you know, it's just a natural part of ageing, and there are things that we can do if somebody wants to do something about it.
So we can have atrophy of the vulva, vagina, face, body. Just gets better and better for us, doesn't it? Brain atrophy. Absolutely, I feel like that a lot.
It's encouraging.
Yeah. For sure. What other kind of symptoms might we see, taking incontinence out of it? Because we do talk about incontinence a lot, and you've said about atrophy. What other symptoms might we see patients coming in with in terms of intimate health?
So when we're talking about age-related changes, atrophy is just one aspect of it, which is why we tend not to use that term exclusively anymore, because it's the genitourinary syndrome of menopause, because it affects so many different parts. So loss of libido is a big one. Vaginal dryness comes along with the atrophy, the laxity. And alongside that, you get burning, itching, pain, discomfort wearing clothing, discomfort during intercourse. People can tear during intercourse as well. So it's not a very pleasant thing to have for a woman.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to keep your sexual relationship going, but it's so unbearable and excruciating for you to actually be intimate with your partner, this is why a lot of women will just give up and stop. And
like you were saying,
Yeah, the hidden women that just giving up.
And actually they don't need to, because things like vaginal estrogen can make a massive impact on a woman. And then you've got the treatments as well that further enhance the improvements they can get. And when you get women coming in after they've had the treatment saying, this has been life-changing for me, I've got my relationship back on track, I'm confident in wearing whatever I want to wear, I feel comfortable exercising, you see the change in their demeanour and their confidence when they walk into clinic, and it's so heartwarming to see that. And it's
it is. It kind of gives you that fulfillment, doesn't it? I still think there's still, even though we're talking, there's still a massive taboo around this subject. It's not something that I talk about with my girlfriends. We might talk about sex, but we wouldn't talk about incontinence. We wouldn't talk about atrophy or ageing down there. Why do you think that is, Emma?
I think they're embarrassed. I think it depends, perhaps with me, because I personally had this situation following my children. I think maybe I've opened up to patients and friends about it, and then they've been more open. Maybe once, if there's that one person that opens up the conversation. And I am quite open about it because I've been on quite a journey with it. But I think it's a bit of embarrassment, really, because it does still feel so taboo.
Yeah.
They won't speak to their GP about it because they just don't think that's life-threatening. So they just kind of internalise it, and just a lot of women just accept it.
Yeah.
I think it actually extends past the intimate health area. I think there's a lot of women that don't openly talk amongst themselves, men as well, I imagine, about having treatments done. Any treatments done. I mean, my friends, since I've started this job 2 years ago, I always am quite open about what I've had done, because it's something that I never used to do. And it's made them feel a lot more confident to look into it. Yeah. But generally, people, have private doors and want to appear like it's all natural. Yeah. That's what we're kind of told we should do. Yeah. And it's not all natural. You watch TV, don't they look, they've aged so gracefully and stuff. Brilliant, yeah. And all the Botox and fillers that no one's talking about, and all the devices and, the money they've had put in. I just don't know if we like to admit we might have flaws.
Yeah.
I don't think they even talk to their partners about it. So if they're not talking to the friends...
I don't tell my partner.
Their partners...
I wait until he tells me that I look different.
Yeah, it's but even sort of, the aesthetic treatments, they don't tell their partners, but lots of them are certainly not having those conversations with their actual partner, because that is just such a difficult conversation for them to have.
Yeah, I think the first conversation I had with my husband about intimate treatments was actually just after we had sex, and he asked me, "Are you clenching? Were you clenching?" And I was like, "No, I've had." Which was actually what I would call a side effect. It's not why I had a treatment, but it was a great side effect, and you know, I'm very grateful for that, I think. But I've had 2 children. I had terrible pelvic floor issues. I was a runner, so I would run, and I would have to wear pads every time I ran, and I would be getting up to go to the loo in the night 3 or 4 times. So my sleep, which was the worst thing actually, it was really affecting my quality of life, because I was up and down to the loo the whole time. And being a woman with busy brain, as we all do, I wouldn't be getting back to sleep, and it's just I'm laying there waiting to need the loo again to have to go up. I had a course of Vetone treatment. I never ever get up to go to the loo in the night, ever. I can run without pads. I've got absolutely 0 issues, and also my husband seems to be enjoying things. And so, you know, for me, there was a lot of personal benefits, which is why I'm really passionate about it, and why I try to talk to my friends about it a lot more.
And how are they responding?
You know, I think if you mention the sex bit, that tends to hook them. That seems to be a hook. But if you were having an open conversation, and not all my friends, but some of my friends, they would be like, "Oh no," they wouldn't. I don't even think they would tell me if they had any kind of incontinence issues, because they're, you know, my very best friends, yes, but you know, just my general friend group, I think that's something that they would hold back, because there is still that taboo. I know you were talking about a personal story you don't have to share.
No, when I was one of the women, like similar, you know, sort of was actually after my first of 3 children, but after my first, that was the child that sort of seemed to made the problems. But I ended up having a surgical procedure, quite a very, very in-depth surgical procedure. And actually it didn't go very well. And that was quite scary. But actually, you know, it seems to have solved the issues. But actually, I think I am that person that probably didn't need to have that surgical procedure if this technology had been available at that time. And seeing the Empower showcase today, and seeing the results and the sort of technology, is actually fascinating. But actually, how are those women going to access that? Because if you're speaking to a GP, you're often at the very advanced end of your symptoms, because I think those women will eventually go to the GP because they really are suffering. But what about the ones that are just a little bit before that? They're going to probably feel really uncomfortable with speaking to their GP because they don't think that it warrants that conversation.
It's all about awareness as well. I was thinking also about the women in sports that struggle a lot, and their performance is not optimized because of that, and nobody speaks about it, which is quite mind-blowing if you think about it. It's not just about improving your sex life or feeling good. It's an actual activity that is your job, your life. And
a sports person's point of view as well, they probably see it as a weakness.
Exactly.
And, you know, mentally,
exactly,
they probably see it as
which
weakness.
makes it even worse when actually they can solve it and they can optimize their performance and live better overall.
I think that just highlights the importance of education and raising awareness and carrying on talking about these issues, even though we'll get people saying, "Oh, that's all you ever talk about." It's like, well, I will stop talking about it when the right people have heard about it. And until then, we're going to carry on.
I'll be quite honest though, I think I probably am one of these people that could benefit from it. Like, I went to a festival over the summer, and my biggest dread of the festival was how many times am I going to have to go and find a porta potty in the night, you know, climb out, because I was staying in a caravan with my friends. It's like, oh, I'll have to open the door, I'll have to have a key, I'll have to wander across a field in my wellies and probably a coat to go to a portaloo that's probably full of everything, you know, once, potentially twice. But I kind of, because no one talks about it in my friendship group, have never really spoken about it, aside from them going, "Not again, ha ha ha," you know. Because so I just thought that's what other people do, you know. I don't live with other girls, you know. So I didn't realise that wasn't what.
Yeah, it doesn't need to happen. You shouldn't need to have to get up to go to the loo all that time.
Imagine sleeping through the night.
I swear to God, I slept until 6 o'clock this morning, which was, for me, I'm not a good sleeper generally, but to have that and not have to get up to go to the loo is incredible. I love it.
I slept till the cars woke me up outside.
Until a cat sits on your face.
I mean, like before though, since my first pregnancy, I'd get up like clockwork in the middle of the night around 3 o'clock in the morning. And it was so regular, and I'd done it so many times that I could actually get up, go to the bathroom, go for a wee, wash my hands, come back, get into bed without opening my eyes or turning the light on. That's how regular it was. And after having pelvic floor treatment, it just being able to sleep through the night, which hadn't happened since my first pregnancy.
I'd have to get rid of my cat though as well, wouldn't I?
Just let him out. That's what I have to do.
It's a gym for your vagina.
That's how
I
mean,
think.
you look after
It's a
the
gym for
rest
your
of
vagina.
you look after the rest of yourself. So why not your vulva and your vagina?
Yeah. Do you check your vulva?
No.
Do you check your vulva?
Yeah.
You do now?
Yeah.
Do you guys check your vulvas?
I only found out today that we was meant to be, but
Who knew?
Who knew?
We're supposed to check our
Absolutely,
vulvas like we check our breasts. Yes. I only found this out in March from this lady. She was like, why aren't you checking your vulva? I was like, I had no idea I was supposed to check it.
I was aware I was supposed to. I've got ADHD, so I forget to.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing with checking your vulva is unless you know what's normal, you're not going to know when things change. So you need to start inspecting it, getting used to what it looks like, how it feels from an early age, so that when you do get changes, you can recognise them and get help earlier.
Yeah. Really key. I don't think that message is out there, and it should be as much as we check our breasts. You know, that's how often we should be doing it. Shirin will be checking my vulva later, I expect. So every time I speak to her, she's like, come on, I better get it checked.
won't bring that service to EK yet.
I
though,
mean,
yeah.
on the bright side, when somebody comes into the clinic, let's say a lady that has a daughter, I can guarantee they will pass the message on to their kids, their daughters in particular. We had a few cases like that. And I found it amazing.
Yeah, that's how it should be. That is how it should be. And I think the next generation will be a lot better than our generation, for sure.
Yeah, and the one before us was taught to not talk about anything. Because, no, you don't talk about sex. You're just meant to do it for your husband. You don't talk about incontinence. That's a dirty thing. You're not meant to have periods, so when you have them, you just take yourself out of society.
Oh my God, I get so frustrated with people who don't talk about periods, as in particularly boys. It's like, you don't have to sit through this. I'm the one that's in pain. You just have to listen to me be in pain. Like, that's nothing.
And just deal with my mood swings throughout.
No, exactly. You just have to sit there and listen. I'm the one that's in pain.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
I remember sex coming on the TV and my mum would leave the room because it was just an awkward situation because they didn't want to be in a room with sex going on with their kids there. That's a whole role model culture, isn't it? How are we supposed to talk about sex when they can't even sit with something on the TV? From a personal point of view, from my first child, my epidural didn't work. It only numbed my left side. And I then had local anaesthetic, but I had huge haematomas, which has caused atrophy. Now we have this machine. I need to get on it, and you know.
You do need to get on it.
I know, honestly. So, but I'm very open and honest, and I will talk to my friends and things about it and say, listen. And I've referred to it wrongly to a designer vagina before now because to me it doesn't look normal for me, but I know it's atrophy from the skin being stretched from childbirth, and you know. I'm only 38, so it can be applied to any age, but the whole point is everyone needs to talk about it more.
Yeah, I apologise that I threw everybody into the 40 category.
I'm on my way there.
I'm quite flattered by that, thank you very much.
You should be, I like it. Carla, you do a lot of Forma V treatments for your patients, don't you?
We love it. So one of the things I was just speaking about before is we're very passionate about doing research. So I'm a clinical research officer by background in NHS, and it's research into how we can help these ladies with incontinence issues using the Forma V, and that's something that CJ Aesthetics is very passionate about being involved in, and thankfully we have the support of InMode, and that's just going to help ladies further down the line and hopefully open up more conversations to people. I think I'm in North Wales, and I don't know whether or not cities, we're always a little bit behind the cities. I might be wrong in saying that, but I think with any aspect, aesthetics, anything, we're always a little bit behind. So my aim is to open up the conversations and to get more ladies going, actually, I'd be a candidate for this research, to be able to get people talking about it more. Because I definitely think it's something that people aren't talking enough about. So hopefully we can help.
You haven't had the treatment yourself?
Honestly, it's horrific, isn't it? I know, it's awful.
I mean,
I
I
need
am
to.
shocked.
I know. Honestly, I was that close to going under the knife, so I need to have this first, don't I?
100% you need to have it. My goodness.
I know.
If I had one at home, I'd be on it every night.
Yeah, but I can't imagine you giving yourself a Morpheus AB treatment.
I couldn't do that. No, I'm too much of a whim. I do the V-tone. I could do the V-tone quite easily, but no, definitely not. Definitely not. Can you picture me at home? Even on my face, I couldn't do it on my face. Emma, do you think you've got a market for this kind of device?
Definitely. I think that this plays right into our sort of patient list. And, you know, we're in the country, we're out of the city, and I think that perhaps, like you say, I think in the city is probably more expectations that you can get this type of service. But obviously women all over the country are suffering the same. And it's just a case of looking at this and thinking about, you know, how this can be brought to the clinic and with the right people manning this, because obviously, you know, you need the trust in the practitioner and that they've got the right sort of medical qualifications, etc. But definitely, I think it's something that would just fit so well. Yeah.
Vivianna, do you think we'll see a change next year, 2025, in women's health?
A big change, not only because of us.
Well, some part because of us.
But yeah, I think there's going to be a big change. From what I'm seeing, they are becoming more and more aware. The reaction we get in the clinic when we speak about the device, like let's say we present the clinic, what devices, what treatments do you have? We say we have this one, it's the Empower. It can help you with intimate health and women wellness. And the reaction is, wow, does it really exist? Something like this actually exists, which means they had absolutely no idea it can be treated in such a way. So slowly with each person, I think it's gonna take off really well.
We've definitely seen a big shift this year, and I'm really proud to be at the beginning of it, or what feels like the beginning, although the beginning was a very long time ago. But I've definitely seen a big shift in the market and acceptance of women's health and intimate treatments. There's been quite a few devices that have been coming out.
Yeah,
You've probably seen a bit more in aesthetics.
I still think that you guys have got the market edge on that. I think it's your thing, really. But yeah, there are a few coming out here and there, aren't there?
Yeah. Trailblazers. You're in the right crew. You're in the right crew. Emma, what do you think would be the biggest objections about clients coming in for these treatments?
I think they're going to be embarrassed, aren't they? So they're going to, it's a bit like going for your smear test, that you hope you don't know the person. And that's the first objection. But I think coming into sort of a medically led clinic really helps that situation, because they understand that you are a nurse or a doctor. So hopefully that will help them cross that bridge and get over the threshold. Yeah. I think that is probably the first hurdle. And once they're over that hurdle, they've got the trust in Empower and in Mode. Obviously, this is, you know, fantastic platform for them to seek help with. So I think once they can get over the threshold of the embarrassment and have the trust in the practitioner and the clinic, then I think they're 90% there.
Yeah. Psychologically, they also fear pain. Yes. They don't know if it's going to hurt. Yeah. So one of the main questions...
Does Morpheus V hurt?
To be honest, from everything we've seen, it doesn't. Nobody complained about pain. You might jump a bit sometimes, let's say, if it surprises you. But no, it doesn't hurt. But this is one of the main holdups. Like the first question that we are being asked, does it hurt? Like you are putting something inside of me, is it gonna hurt?
I think that's the key thing, isn't it? You're embarrassed to either come in and go through it, or you think it's going to hurt. I think they're the two key obvious things that you're going to see.
I've spoken quite a bit about barriers women have in coming forward and speaking and seeking treatments. And yes, so it's fear of the unknown, embarrassment, the social taboos surrounding it. Is it going to hurt? Is it going to work? Yeah. Also, the cost of it can be quite a barrier as well. Yeah. And also just putting themselves at the top of their list Can I justify having this treatment, finding time for me when I've got to do X, Y, and Z and get the dinner on tonight?
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on that needs to be worked through.
Yeah.
And some seem to find it easier to fix something that it's seeable, let's say like the face, whereas that area they can hide, which is sad.
But in response to that, when I first introduced intimate treatments into my clinic, my patients that were having the treatment said if they ever had to choose financially between their face and intimate health, they picked the intimate health because of the difference it made to their quality of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a mindset, isn't it?
But I mean, they were quite committed to their facial treatments, which is how I knew them in the first place. So the first people that we tried the intimate treatments on, they were obviously really good facial aesthetic patients.
Yeah.
And that was part of the thing that got me to change tact as well, because obviously when it first comes, I was like, are people going to pay for this? Are they really going to want the treatments? And every single one of my initial patients said that if they had to choose, they'd pick the vulva.
I love that.
That's
Fantastic.
amazing.
So in terms of these clinics being available in aesthetics clinics and medical wellness clinics rather than the NHS, some people might think it's a bit frivolous. But as I've said before, there's a lot more investment in devices and technology and upcoming treatments through that space because they're not confined by the restrictions of the NHS. So we can offer our patients a lot more as long as we do our homework. We use reputable companies that do the proper research and development, and we have safe, effective treatments. We can actually offer a lot more than the National Health Service can, which is, I mean, I personally think they should be available on the NHS,
Yeah.
but it's not going to happen in my lifetime.
The long game. It's the long game, Shirin. It's on the
Well,
list.
who knows if the NHS is going to exist down the line anyway. But the other...
Controversial, Lakhani.
I was listening to LBC this morning. They're talking about bringing in private insurance, but different topic. The other side of it is the patient's accessibility to us. So when you try and get a GP appointment or you try and get a gynecology appointment, you can't. And when you're going to see your aesthetic doctor or your aesthetic nurse and they've got qualifications in intimate health as well, and they've got the time to spend with you and the time to listen to your concerns and really drill down
And build
into
that
what's going-
relationship, yeah.
Absolutely. So you're much more likely to trust them than your GP who can barely spare you 10 minutes. And that's not their fault. I'm not
It's just the way it works.
It's just the way the system is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's
do.
those barriers to healthcare, isn't it? It's the long waits, getting the GP appointment, long waits because of NHS wait lists and too much demand, and then people are suffering then. Whereas you've got these treatments that are more accessible and people don't have to suffer for so long, do they?
Have you got any patients that have seen amazing results with Empower?
With urinary incontinence, yes, because we've only took it for a few months now.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to share very long term, let's say, but I'm sure I will have. But urinary incontinence wise, yes, the term that is always used is that it's life changing.
Yeah.
Because it affects every single activity that you do on a daily basis. And once you manage that, you just feel like a new person, like you're born again.
Absolutely.
It's quite amazing,
And that's empowering in itself, isn't it?
indeed.